Self-doubt is that relentless voice in your head that questions your choices, your worth, and your abilities. It can make even the most straightforward decisions feel overwhelming. But here's the good news. Self-doubt is a habit of thought, and like all habits, you can break it. So by understanding its roots and applying some research-backed strategies, which you know are my favorite, you can absolutely become a confident decision maker. So today I'll walk you through what the science says about self-doubt, why it sticks around, and how to build the self-assurance you need to break the self-doubt habit. Stay tuned for my 5 steps to confident decision making. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm so happy you're here. You know who I am, and I'm very glad you're with me. This is, I hope, a great topic because a lot of you have written in about it. So I'm thinking you're going to like it. So let's jump in. Why do we doubt ourselves? That really should be, I think, your first question. And self-doubt creeps in as a result of, past experiences, a fear of failure, or really a need for validation from other people. Studies show that when people are heavily dependent on external feedback, they're more likely to experience chronic self-doubt because, they struggle to trust their own judgment. And if you're new to me here, whenever I say studies show or the research says, all of that is, you can find it if you're watching me on YouTube under the video. Like and subscribe, leave a comment. I'd love to hear it. Or you can come to the website, abbymedcalf.com, and on either the relationship tips and tools page where there's a full blog written, not a transcript, but a blog. All the links are there, or on the podcast page wherever you find an episode you're listening to, you can find all the links to the research if you want to go deep. I also want to say, when I say research says or studies show, those are plural. And I pretty much always only leave one link. I'm not going to, it becomes very complicated to leave multiple studies for things, but you should know that I've read more than one thing to say what I'm saying. Okay. So I don't think I've ever said that out loud before. All right. Jumping back in. So on top of that, self-doubt can be compounded by a tendency for our brains to exaggerate perceived risks. And this is, of course, rooted in, it's really evolutionary survival mechanisms that prioritized avoiding threats, of course, right? That's why you and I are here today. But in modern life, this so-called threat can look like the fear of making a wrong decision or of failing publicly, being embarrassed in front of a lot of people, that kind of thing, or even one person. So most commonly, self-doubt, I believe, begins in childhood. It can be, I think, traced back to the interactions you had really with the important people in your life growing up. So your parents, your teachers, siblings, coaches, mentors, clergy, anybody who was important. Maybe you were always compared to your siblings, or maybe your parents were overprotective and made all your choices for you, so you never learned the skill of making your own decisions. Maybe you were criticized or judged really harshly when you made a quote, wrong decision, or you maybe even had a caregiver who would withhold love if you didn't do something, exactly right. So obviously that's going to be a problem, right? It's going to result in you doubting now. Of course, there also could have been trauma in your childhood or some huge failure that had long-term consequences, that somehow has you doubting yourself. So, and I'll also say that it doesn't have to be childhood. I do want to say that. I mostly in my practice, I can sort of put, as I'm working with someone, I can kind of look and go, oh yeah. But it also, something as an adult could have, you might have gotten into a relationship as an adult with a partner, or had a best friend who had their own issues, so was maybe prone to gaslighting you slowly over time, which eroded your sense of confidence. Again, I still think that is linked in childhood, because why would you stay with that friendship or that person or that in that romantic relationship? I still think that's a childhood thing, but you might not have noticed it. And then as an adult, you get into these unhealthy relationships, and then it becomes clear. And question I got asked actually recently by a client I was talking about self-doubt with. She asked me, she said, is self-doubt ever helpful? Like, is there a reason to have it? And I was very clear that overall, and I'm going to say it to you now, self-doubt is something, you really want to avoid. But there are times, I want to be fair in my presentation. There are times it can serve some kind of purpose because of something we psychologists call adaptive doubt. And there's research showing that small amounts, small, operative word small, amounts of adaptive doubt can lead to better decision making because it encourages us to really adaptive doubt. It encourages us to pause and reflect. And again, in psychology, we dub this productive hesitation. Okay. So I'm someone who likes to really jump into things, and I don't always have productive hesitation. My wonderful Gary does have a lot of productive hesitation. So that makes for a good team. But, just you want to keep that in mind. So this process, this pausing and reflecting can keep us from making more reckless choices, especially in some high stakes situations. So it can be good. The key is to recognize when self-doubt is constructive versus when it's paralyzing. If you find yourself going in circles without gaining any new insights, it's time to shift gears, my friend, and use one of the strategies, that I'm going to teach you today so that because you really just want to be able to make that decision with confidence, right? Okay. So let's talk about the signs of self-doubt. I've noticed that some people don't realize that certain things are self-doubt and can show up that way. So, and it can show up in a lot of self-doubt, I think shows up in a lot of obvious ways, but also in more subtle ones. And the self-doubt manifests really in how you view yourself and how you approach tasks, how you interact with other people, all these ways. So recognizing the signs is the first step to addressing self-doubt and building that self-confidence. And again, I did an earlier episode a long time ago, which of course will be linked, about building, I think it was in season 1 or 2, how to build self-confidence and self-esteem. I've done ones on self-esteem, all of those. So if you just put in those keywords with my name, you'll find all those. If you don't want to, go back to the website, look at the episode and find it. So here are the most common signs I see in my practice. There's a bunch of them, but let me go over them that you likely have a problem with self-doubt. Number 1 for sure is, I think it's the most obvious, is constantly seeking validation, feeling the need to check in with other people before you make decisions, or needing a lot of reassurance about your choices or about what you're capable of. That's a lot of self-doubt. Number 2 would be difficulty making decisions. Self-doubt can make, again, even small decisions feel overwhelming. And there's a lot of indecision or second guessing, especially if you're worried about making, the wrong choice. Big problem. I would say connected to that is perfectionism. I would call that number 3. So setting unrealistically high standards and over focusing on details, it's a way of avoiding mistakes, and you fear being criticized or not being good enough, right? So there's all that, which really is all about, overthinking and overanalyzing, dwelling on past actions or analyzing future possibilities excessively. Again, it's not just a little of that good hesitation. It's a lot of it. Oh, maybe you're always focusing on worst case scenarios or playing mistakes in your head. That's another sign of self-doubt. Avoiding challenges is another sign of self-doubt. Shying away from opportunities or challenges or situations where there's a chance of failure. Self-doubt makes you question your abilities, right? So if you're really risk averse, like on a huge level, you probably have self-doubt at the bottom of that. Number, what are we on? 6, 7, wherever we are. The next one I would say are downplaying your accomplishments, brushing off praise or attributing your success to luck rather than skill. it really can often stem from a lack of belief in your abilities or your worth, and you're trying to, keep all that away from you so people don't have high expectations next time. Imposter syndrome is definitely a sign of self-doubt. Feeling like a fraud and worrying that others will find out you're not as competent as they think, even if you're qualified or successful. And again, I've done episodes on imposter syndrome and, most of these, which will all be linked. People pleasing, another one I've done an episode on, and as a chapter in my book, Boundaries Made Easy. But it's another sign of self-doubt, saying yes to others at your own expense, or not holding boundaries because you're afraid of rejection or criticism if you disappoint someone else. Another problem I would say is comparing yourself to others, frequently measuring your worth or your achievements against others and feeling inadequate as a result of that. I probably could go on and on. Let me just do one more. I would say that negative self-talk, right, is another sign of self-doubt. Having a really critical inner voice makes sense, right? It's telling you to doubt yourself. That inner voice that constantly highlights, your perceived flaws or mistakes, and it makes it really hard to trust yourself, right? So then you get stuck. So now you know what you've got. You're looking, going, oh my God, Abby, I can go down that checklist. I have a lot of those. All right. Now you know what you've got. What do you do? Right. So, and before we get into the 5 practical ways you can shift from self-doubt to self-confidence, I'm actually giving you 6 ways. I'm going to say my top tip right now. It's like a bonus 6th tip, and really the most important. And it has to do with your state of mind when you make a decision. I talked about this the other day in a video on TikTok. Do you follow me on TikTok? I know I'm on TikTok. I seem to think I'm cool. I don't know what that is. And I have to say, I'm in love with the beauty filter on TikTok. Yes, I am. Okay. If I have to see a video of myself, it's horrible. I can't watch myself. I can't look. It's terrible. And then you put the little filter on. It's like, oh, I look younger. Oh, I feel better. I know sometimes people are like, you're a psychologist. You're supposed to feel, yeah, I know. I have issues too. Okay. I'm not perfect. Get over it. Did I just go on a TikTok little rant? Yeah, it's okay. But you can follow me there. I leave tips usually Monday through Friday. I tend to take the weekends off, but I'm trying to be a older voice of reason on TikTok a little bit. I think there's a lot of misinformation, not just on TikTok, everywhere. And those videos get posted on my IG and Facebook and other places too. It's just a lot of young therapists come in, and they're very beautiful, and they're very fabulous, and they're very whatever, but they really don't have the experience. And they say stuff that's really misinformed a lot. I mean, a lot. I'm not going to call people out. I'm not going to be that gal, but having a lot of experience really does count for something, especially in something like psychology, because there are so many things that are what we call a differential diagnosis. There's a lot of things that look like a lot of things. So I'll hear maybe a younger therapist talk about narcissism. Here's the sign, and they're just wrong, and they're just wrong. And so it's concerning. Or they calling something, they don't say, well, it could be this other thing too, or someone could have this and not that. It's meant, I'm sure, to get followers and that kind of thing. But please don't get your mental health information from TikTok, even from me. You know what I mean? But at the very least, make sure that it's, someone who has a lot of experience and, is knowing what they're talking about. Okay. So, but let's get back to it. So I want to give the sixth tip, which is that if you make a decision from what I call the love side of your brain, you've heard me say this before, then it's your best bet. Your love side is really about when you make your decisions from your prefrontal cortex, where logic, problem solving, long-term planning, and your best judgment lives. You hopefully make a decision when you're feeling motivated, calm, inspired, or clear. Okay. That's where you're hopefully making a decision. And this happens all the time with my clients. We're having a session, right? It's great. They feel relaxed with me. They trust me. We're talking about something. So now they're in that quote unquote love side of the brain. I've talked a lot about the love and fear side of the brain. And they're in that this is science, not woo. And so they're in that part of the brain where they can think rationally, they can, really put things in perspective well, and they make a choice. But then they leave session, because by the time I see them next week, they're a wreck. The doubt sneaks in because the fear side of the brain takes over. That side is filled with worry and anxiety and low self-esteem and zero self-compassion. It is judgmental, critical, harsh. It is the drama part of your brain that says you're stupid and you're going to embarrass yourself. You're going to regret this. You're never going to find love again. You're never going to have a job again. That's what it's woo. When you're thinking from that side of the brain, you're going to lose, because that part of your brain lies to you. Your anxiety lies to you. And again, if you've made that decision, like I do with so many clients, and in session, and they're clear and they're calm, but then they stay up late at night thinking about it. They talk to their mom about it, who makes them more anxious. They talk to their best friend. They've talked to 40 friggin' people about it, none of whose opinion they usually trust anyway, but for some reason they feel like they have to keep talking about it. And by next session, they've done nothing. They've been spinning in their head and spiraling in self-doubt all week. When they left, they were great. So the lesson is to make any decision from a calm, centered place first, and then trust that. Then trust that when that doubt seeks in, when others think, go, wait, where did I make this decision from? I did an episode called how do you know if you're making the right decision or like following your gut? Everyone should listen to that. If you're listening to this now, you should totally listen to that, where I do talk about this particular tip and go into more detail. Okay. All right. So let's talk about the 5 ways to overcome self-doubt in your decision-making. Let's get there. Number 1 is to set smaller, attainable goals. Okay. I just talked about this in a podcast recently, an episode recently. I always say a podcast. I don't have multiple podcasts. I have one, but I have many episodes. So I'm old. I use the wrong language. Give me a break. And in a previous episode, I think it was even maybe the last one that came out, I do these earlier than when they come out. So I don't always do them next to each other. So I can't always remember. But anyway, let's say, so setting smaller attainable goals. Let's say you're trying to decide whether to start a new exercise routine. Okay. So you might hesitate thinking, what if I can't keep up with it? Whatever. Instead of jumping into a 5-day-a-week plan, start with one manageable step, like a 10-minute daily walk. I've talked about this before here. Whenever I have a client who's like, I'm going to go to the gym, I tell them, no gym, because most people don't keep going to the gym. I say, what I want you to do first, unless you're like doing something very specific, just going to the gym, I hate. But if you're like, I've called a trainer, I'm going to meet with them 3 times a week at the gym, and I'm going to do that for 1 month, I go to the gym. That's great. Meet with the trainer. But otherwise, and even that, I would say, just do that. Don't even commit to more. Tell the trainer you're not going to work out in between. Just say, I'm just going to do this, like smaller steps. If you could take a 10-minute walk after dinner every night for 2 weeks, I would say, and you keep up with that, or for a month, I would say, then you can think about joining the gym. But again, try to be very specific. Maybe you're joining with a best friend. You know what days you're going to go. Again, break big goals into small, achievable steps, because it helps you build confidence, because you're going to experience these little wins along the way. And there's tons of research on this. Studies show that when we gain motivation, when we hit small targets, it creates a feeling of accomplishment and encourages us to keep going. I had BJ Fogg on the podcast a couple of years ago, I guess now. He wrote Tiny Habits, great book, highly recommend. He's at Stanford, I think, or he's been at Stanford. I don't know if he's still there. Really great book, highly recommend. He's got a whole thing online, Tiny Habit little programs and stuff. It's a great way to start. A client I worked with, we'll call her Sarah. She wanted to switch careers from medicine into counseling. She had actually been trained as a medical doctor, but wanted to become a counselor. But she was paralyzed by doubt, hated being a medical doctor. But I've had multiple clients. I know right now, this person is listening thinking it's them, when I've had multiple clients who were MDs who then went on to get be in other professions. But anyway, so they all think it's them. But so she was really paralyzed by self-doubt, just so much doubt. Like she feared, she's going to waste years in school and end up hating that too. I'm going to go to counseling school. I'm going to do all this and I'm going to hate this as much as I hate, medicine. And that was her big doubt. But so instead of focusing on this, intimidating long-term goal, right? We focused on smaller goals. She committed to attending one informational interview with another doctor who I knew, who I hooked her up with, who had switched into counseling from being a medical doctor, right? Perfect. Just do that. And then once she did that, she contacted 3 schools to find out about their programs and what would be required, and at the same time, she was also speaking to her partner about steps they could take if she were to go part-time at her current job so she could attend school. Like, what would that cost? How would that be? And then she and I were discussing the idea of what it means to waste time. If you learn something, is it ever a waste? Even if she didn't become a counselor, wouldn't the training still be useful in her medical practice? We talked about this. We had all these little tiny goals that week after week we would, have her do one thing or maybe 1 or 2 things. And you start to develop some momentum when you do that. And that's exactly what happened with her. And she actually, after a lot of talking, realized that it wasn't what she wanted to do. And she wanted to go into a different field within, a different thing within medicine. But that was great, so we went, but she had been thinking about this decision for 4 years and not doing anything and thinking the whole time that her dream would be to be a counselor. And it was good to finally put that to rest so she could really be happy, right? And really know what she wanted to do. It's good to rule things out as well as rule things in. All right. Number 2, second tip is to challenge negative self-talk. If you catch yourself saying, I always make the wrong choice, I need you to pause and I need you to challenge this thought. What proof do you have? Always? That's impossible. It's impossible. It's impossible you always make the wrong choice. What are there times you made good decisions? What are the times you've made good decisions? What are the times you've made healthy decisions? Negative self-talk is generally based on exaggerated fears, not reality, right? And cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, which is really what most therapists use, it teaches us that, of course, reframing these thoughts significantly reduces self-doubt. And again, we know this from the research. And I've done an entire episode on cognitive reframing, which I'll link to. But here's a little exercise to try because I love you right now. You don't have to go find something else. Write down one recent decision you're proud of, or do it in your head, or I don't care how you do the exercise. Even if it's small, like choosing a healthy meal or setting aside time for a friend. No matter what it is, I really would like you to write it down and not think it. Just write it down. And it's a way to remind yourself that not every decision has been a misstep. Okay. I don't care if it's the outfit you put on this morning that looks fabulous on you. I don't care if it's that you remembered to bring your raincoat and it was raining out. Every decision you make is not bad. You got to get over it. You make thousands of decisions every day. How many of those are really bad ones? So, and so this kind of practice reinforces it's just a more balanced perspective of yourself, and it helps you avoid getting trapped in that cycle of all or nothing thinking. Okay. This is also a time when journaling prompts might help, dig a little deeper into the roots of your self-doubt. So, because that way, again, you can dispute all these faulty beliefs you have about your decision-making skills. So you could journal. Let me think of a few. Hold on. And I'll make sure these are written on the website. So, on the blog, but something like, reflect on a past decision you doubted at the time, but that ultimately turned out well, right? Think about, what led to a positive outcome here? How can this experience encourage you to trust yourself more? Something like that. That would be a great journaling prompt. Another one could be, write about a decision you're currently facing. So think about something you're currently facing. What's your worst fear related to this choice? What would you say to reassure a friend facing the same fear? Okay, write about that. Another journaling prompt or writing could be that you list, let's say, 3 situations where you usually doubt yourself. So think of some common, I'm trying to give you different kind of perspectives here. Think of 3 places where you usually doubt yourself. And for each one, ask, what would I do if I trusted myself completely? What would I do in this situation if I trusted myself completely? Describe how you would approach each situation with confidence. That is another, see, look at all the little tips you're getting today. Look at all the little things you could try. All right. Number 3. I know, and we're only on tip 3 of 5, and you've already got so much you could do. And this is one of my favorites, is take decision-making breaks. When you're stuck in indecision and doubt, sometimes the best thing you can do is truly step away. Decision fatigue is real. Studies confirm, right, that our ability to make choices weakens with every decision you make throughout the day, which is why when you get to the end of the day and you're choosing to eat an entire pint of Ben & Jerry's ice cream, that's why, because your decision making, you get that fatigue as the day goes on, your bandwidth, your willpower drains. And so but you can't step away from the choice for Ben & Jerry's, I know, but do you have Ben & Jerry's in other countries? I'd love to hear. Comment. Let me know, because I know you're listening in Malaysia right now and France and Australia, my big Australian peeps. I love you. I'm not even trying accents, so don't even try. Great Britain, wherever you are. Do you have Ben & Jerry's? I need to know. Okay. Cherry Garcia, that's the best. Just in case anyone's wondering what the best Ben & Jerry's ice cream flavor is. All right. When you step away, though, from any other, let's say you're deciding about buying a house or changing jobs or whatever, stepping away gives you time to recharge, and you can, kind of come back with a clearer perspective. So, imagine you're deciding whether to invest in a new business, right? Like, am I going to start this new business or not? Or do I want to invest in this thing? You've been, researching, comparing the pros and cons, consulting with friends, and often after hours of deliberation, right, you feel more uncertain than ever. You're just like, oh, now I thought I knew, now I don't. So taking a break, it could be a walk, could be an hour, reading something unrelated allows your brain to reset also. Shoot some baskets in the backyard. Whatever you want to do as your break. Could be days, weeks, don't make it weeks, but little bit of a break. When you come back to the decision, you'll often find you're better able to weigh your options more objectively. Okay. And studies have definitely found that people who took short breaks were more accurate in their assessments than those who worked continuously. So if you're feeling uncertain, it's probably time to take a step back rather than dig deeper. I know. And I'm going to highly recommend that there's an episode I did, or read the blog on 5 research-backed ways to have more self-discipline and self-control. And in that episode, I go really deep on willpower and emotional bandwidth. I think that's one of my best episodes. So understanding that more will greatly, greatly help you with self-doubt. So because you're taking away some of the logistical stuff and really getting to the real deal. Number 4, and I have a little present for you with this, because I love you so much. Who loves you? Say it. Abby loves me. That's right. Number 4 is to identify and validate your values. Okay, so let's talk about that. And I have a little gift to go with this. I have a little something to help you. If you find yourself repeatedly doubting your choices, it's maybe because your decisions aren't aligning with your core values. So knowing what matters most to you is key, essential for making confident decisions. All right. Studies have found that people who were clear about their personal values experienced less anxiety and felt more resolved in their choices. So I have an exercise you can download that I made just for you to help you identify your top values. Okay. So, because it lists like a bunch of values and can kind of help you. But if you don't want to download it, take a few minutes, write down your top 5 values, family, creativity, autonomy, honesty, equality, growth, joy, health, balance, right? Whatever. Then consider how your current decision or decisions align or don't align with the values you just, right, said. So, for example, if financial independence is a top value and you're debating a job offer with lower pay but higher satisfaction, reflecting on your values, right, will help you decide whether financial gain or personal satisfaction is more important to you right now. And again, that can change over time. I think our values, I know what was important to me. When I was young, I didn't have any money, but I had a lot of time. Now I'm older and I don't have as much time, but I've got more money, right? So my values change. Like my time is so, so, so valuable to me. It used to not be as valuable to me when I was younger. That was like, I would take now I'm going to jump on a plane and spend the money instead of driving somewhere. But when I was younger, it was like, oh, I'm real worried about money. I better drive. You know what I mean? Like, so they do change over time, and there's nothing wrong with that. Or you might go through something and have aha moments and change your values. It's okay. So I have how to identify your values quick sheet. I call them quick sheets because they're quick. So it's just a little quick sheet. You can download it, abbymedcalf.com, go to this episode. I'm thinking of a client I had who was a teacher, and she was very good at teaching, and this happens. And then she was offered a position in administration after I think she was on the job 3 or 4 years. And so we were discussing the pros, more money, different schedule, not having to run a classroom, actually being able to call in sick. And in some, and there's some prestige and like moving up. And a lot of people just always think, oh, of course I want to move up. I want to move up, right? But she was really conflicted, even with all those positives. So we did some core value work, and she realized very clearly that making a difference with students and her love of teaching and seeing when students got it, that was her highest value. And so it was easy for her to decline the role, and it was easy for her to explain to her husband why she wasn't taking on something with more money, right? It really became, she was confident that staying in the classroom aligned better with her true self and felt really good about it instead of being racked with doubt both ways. Okay. And so download the quick sheet. I think it's a good values quick sheet. I think it's a good idea and will help you. I think it'll help you in a lot of your goals in life, but certainly here. And number 5, I have to get some water. Hold on. Sorry. And number 5, my 5th tip is to practice self-compassion. And I know I talk about it a lot. I do. There's a loving kindness meditation. I'll link to it, but you can also look on YouTube, free to listen to. I even took the ads out of it so that you didn't get interrupted in the middle of the meditation. I highly recommend. But self-compassion isn't about ignoring mistakes. It's about treating yourself with the same kindness you'd show a friend. Okay? I've written about self-compassion a million times. There is Kristen Neff, the queen of self-compassion. There's so much on self-compassion out there. And the research is pretty impeccable. It's robust. And it shows that people who practice self-compassion are less afraid of failure and more resilient in their decision-making. Yeah. It's not airy-fairy woo crap. It's real stuff. This can be a game changer if you are prone to criticizing yourself for your past choices. Okay. So, again, I've got lots of stuff on self-compassion. You could write a kind letter to yourself, after a tough decision. Do that. You've made a tough decision. Write a kind letter to yourself. Think of what you'd say to a friend facing the same decision or uncertainty. Let yourself feel understood. Let yourself feel supported, encouraged. I've done this. I've had a lot of clients do it. It's kind of amazing. It's sort of magical what happens. And doing this can really help move you past self-doubt and approach your future decisions with just a gentler mindset, which I would love if you did. There's another exercise called the decision jar that's been around for a long time. I apologize. I don't remember who created it. It wasn't me. Each time you make a decision, even a small one, like choosing a movie to watch, getting your car oil changed, write it down on a slip of paper and place it in the jar. And at the end of the month, you kind of review all the decisions you made. It helps you see just how capable you are of making decisions regularly, which really reinforces your self-confidence. I know. And I know it's easy to go, oh, it sounds so stupid, or that sounds so simple, or so ridiculous, or so whatever. Get over yourself. Get past your ego, because that's all your ego talking. Look stupid to who? What do you care? You don't have to judge it. You don't, just like I'm asking you not to judge yourself. Don't judge if you haven't tried a tip and you're just judging the tip. Ha ha ha. Yeah, that's a problem. So, right? I know some of you are like, well, I haven't eaten dog crap, Abby, but I know I wouldn't like it. It's like, that's not what we're talking about. Don't shut up. I don't want to hear. Oh, did I say shut up? I'm sorry. Don't think that way. I would never tell you to shut up. Sorry. But you know what I mean? It's like, that's crap. Come on. That's not what I'm saying. Try out the tips. Try the decision jar. Try writing yourself the letter. Try it. If you hate it, if it doesn't work, fine. But so many of my clients come back and go, okay, I'm begrudgingly telling you that was good. I'm like, I know. Again, I don't usually think of it. I get them for the research. I gather them from what, they've done with research participants, things like that. So, a lot of it is my brilliant mind, but not all of it. So let's wrap up. So here's what I want to say. Self-doubt, of course, is natural. And in very small doses, again, as I mentioned earlier, it can even be useful. But when you leave it unchecked, it will keep you stuck. It will keep you full of self-loathing. So you want to follow, again, these are research-backed strategies I always give, right? When you do that, you are training yourself to navigate uncertainty with a clear mind and a confident heart. That's what I want, right? A clear mind. Oh, I said that. That's like a good bumper sticker, isn't it? Clear mind, confident heart. Okay. Someone create that. Let me know. Give me some of the proceeds. Do you know what I'm saying though? Like, that's where I want you. Start small. Be patient. Remember that this, I don't want to say journey. Ugh, I hate that word journey. This journey towards self-confidence. You know what I mean though. This process towards really feeling self-assured the process is just as important as the decisions themselves. Do you know what I mean? How you talk to yourself, how you feel about it, how you're working this out is just as important as the rest, as the actually being self-confident in the decisions. Okay. So that is it for today. Again, in January of 2025, I'll be starting my Patreon. I'm very excited. So I have some free giveaways that are going to happen if you are part of the first group that signs on. I'm not going to be offering that in the future. It's going to be just this first go. So I'll come out with that pretty soon. And I'm really excited. It's going to, like I said, start in January of 2025. And it's going to be just a really good community. Because you know me, I'm going to keep the love. No jerks, no assholes. And a really safe place to talk about the episodes and what worked and what didn't and what some ideas are, and a place where you can have all the things that I say to download. One place. You can just go to Patreon, go to the little, whatever tier there'll just be a folder with anything I talk about in the episode, any download, any whatever, right there. And then at higher tiers, I'm going to give you extra prompts or journaling prompts and extra things. And as I always remind you, I will never stop delivering in the free version of this all. You'll have to listen to ads. So I guess it's not 100% free for you. Well, it is, but it's your time. I will always deliver. You will not see a change. As far as I'm concerned, that would be a failure of mine. If you saw a change when I start the paid community, you will not. The paid community is just more and more. If you get things out of this podcast, I think it is very worth your money to join the paid community. And again, it's going to start at $5. And I know $5 is a stretch for some people. I get it. So again, that's why I want to over deliver at there's going to be a $5 tier, an $8 tier, and a $12 tier. So US dollars. So, and you'll be able to prepay for the year if you want and get money off and whatever, or get other bonuses, but we'll make it work. We'll figure it out together. I will keep, changing and morphing the community, listening to your feedback to find out what's the most helpful for you and what you're really looking for. But I have so many of you write in and say this is better than your therapy. You get more out of this than you do from going to meet with someone. And I always want, this to be accessible in whatever way I can do that. And that's why I'm not charging gazillions of dollars to be in the community. I really want to make it accessible, but obviously it has to be worth my time on some level, right? So, I do need to get paid. I need to feed my kids and do those things too. So I think it's a win-win. I think we can all get where we need to go. Remember, we're in a relationship. It's reciprocal. So if again, you can stay with the regular podcast, but I also hope that you follow me, like and subscribe on YouTube or follow me on social media. Any of these things helps me get the word out for world peace, which that's my mission. Any of this supports me, and you don't have to spend a penny. If you want to spend a penny, you can buy a book, you can buy a program, you can get yourself a mug or a t-shirt or a journal. You can do those things too. But again, always accessible to you. Why? Because I love you. Because I am here. I know it's hard to feel love sometimes. It's hard to feel like someone is really just there, with your best interests at heart. And I always have your best interests at heart. And my charging money for some of those things doesn't mean I don't have your best interests at heart. I never put out crap. I never put out something I'm not really proud of. And I never put out something that I think isn't worth even more than you're paying. That's always my goal. So that's it. I love you so much. Have an amazing week, and I will talk to you real soon.